Hi, and welcome to another episode of Hot Takes with me, the Silver Fox. Now, as many of the viewers who watched last night's flash video, went out about 20 past 5 last night, will know that Lady Poole, who is the judge in the low emission zone case, has come down and determined that it is legitimate, that Glasgow City Council do have the right to introduce it. A couple of things that sprung straight to mind is how much is Lady Poole in the pocket of Glasgow City Council, and secondly, why does she think it's right? There's no explanation. She just simply said it was right, and that there were no challenges that were legal, unfortunately. So we will have a look at this and the result, just to make sure to go over it, much to the detriment, I think, of the poor of Glasgow, who of course are the victims of this sort of insidious tax. It is aimed actually at taxing the poor. Nothing to do with emissions. After all, if you drive a foreign car, it doesn't matter, and if you drive a big car, it doesn't matter. As long as it's a new massive engined car, you'll be fine. Anyway, we'll take a look and go through and see what she says. Here goes. Judge rules Glasgow low emission zone is lawful as campaigners express disappointment and surprise. And the Court of Session listened to arguments from a family business, but Judge Lady Poole ruled that low emission zone in Glasgow would contribute to meeting legally required air quality standards, even though those air quality standards are already met, and that the only place in which they are in any way bad, although not illegal, is in the bus station. So it goes to show that the real culprits here are the buses. But of course, this has got absolutely nothing to do with air quality. We all know from day one, this is all to do with money. And we reported yesterday, ironically, literally just minutes before this news came out, that Glasgow City Council have made over £1 million from this scam. And that they will be spending it now quite legally. They don't have to worry about saving it and paying it back. And so they'll be able to have lots more flights at business class to Dubai to make sure that their chief executive is kept in the sort of the level in which she's become accustomed. 24-hour Gregs and quaffing champagne at 30,000 feet while sitting in a well-appointed business class seat. As she goes on her holidays paid for by the poor. Because ultimately, of course, this is a tax on the poor. The only people who can't afford to upgrade their cars, the people who tend to own older cars, not necessarily, of course, the cars that are most polluting. That would be a different matter. If you were to as we say, fine people on the basis of whether their cars were polluting or not, would be acceptable, I think. More acceptable, surely, than just simply fining people because they're earning too little to upgrade their cars. This is all this is. It would also be ironic when you think that perhaps if, rather than a flat fee, which represents a much bigger percentage of income to the poor than to the rich, perhaps maybe a percentage of income would be the appropriate fine, and say 10% of weekly wage, something like that. If you go in, you pay 10% of 1 week's wage. Now, for the rich, that would be a lot more than for the poor. But there you go. You can do it like that, or 10% of a daily wage. How's that? 10% of 1 day's wage. That should be the point. And that way that the rich pay more. Make it progressive, and do it not on age of car, which of course is arbitrary. But do it on the output of the car. So you have a look and see what the emissions are, and then you do it that way. I think that would also be absolutely fine. It's progressive, and the rich pay more. What's wrong with that? But that's not what this tax was set up for. Of course, it was set up to punish the poor, purely it, and to raise money to keep fat people flying in business class. Anyway, yesterday a panel of judges ruled that the local authority was justified in introducing the low emission zone. And in a written decision at the Glasgow Court of Session, at the Edinburgh Court of Session, Judge Lady Poole stated the information available to Glasgow City Council gave it a basis, reasonably, to conclude that if there was a low emission zone, nitrous dioxide levels in the city would decrease and air quality standards would both be attained and maintained. Even though air quality in the city is exceptionally clean, and that the only place, of course, as I've mentioned, where the air quality is low is in the bus station, because it is buses that cause the problem, not cars. The low emission zone would contribute to meeting legally required air standards, she added. It was lawful and not irrational. It's completely irrational. Go to Ireland, buy yourself a Southern Irish car, come back to Glasgow, and Bob's your uncle. You don't have to pay the fine, because they can't access foreign databases, foreign car databases. And so just buy yourself a Polish car, something like that. Somebody who drives on the left. So, Ireland's good, Malta, Cyprus, where they drive on the left, absolutely fine. Bring the car back to Edinburgh, Glasgow, sorry. Court was in Edinburgh. Bring it back to Glasgow, drive through, and then nobody can do anything about it because they don't know what that car is. It's absolutely a discretionary tax on the poor. That's all this is. Anyway, the legal action had been brought by a Glasgow-based garage firm called John Patton & Sons. Lawyers representing them said the local authority scheme was illegal and draconian and should be stopped. Advocate Lord Davison of Glencover, KC, told Lady Poole data showed that air quality in the city had been improving in recent years and that this trend was set to continue. Critics of the low emission zone scheme have insisted it will have a detrimental impact on Glasgow's economy. And it's not that it will, but it is. It's already having that effect. And there are places in the city closing up because they're not getting the trade anymore. The drummer with top Scots rock band Gun, Paul McManus, has contributed £100,000 to a campaign which wants the scheme halted. Mr McManus has also made financial donation to the Labour Party, said he wanted to get involved as he feels it will hit poorer people hardest, which of course is exactly what is happening. The Low Emission Zone Fight Back campaign group expressed their absolute disappointment at the judgment, adding they were surprised at how quickly a decision was made. And the group's advisor Jack Irvin said, the Low Emission Zone Fight Back team are clearly very disappointed and somewhat surprised the judgment was arrived at so speedily. William Patton and the team will consider their position. Now, I will say that, before we just finish this off, that London has Blade Runners. And I wouldn't be surprised if they have a Glasgow chapter to that noble organisation. And that would be the thing to happen. And we have a Glasgow chapter of the Blade Runners of Old London Town, moving north and going into Edinburgh and doing exactly the same thing in Edinburgh as they're doing in London. And of course it is working, despite all the BS that Calm comes up with. It is working because they're taking them down systemically, and it's just going boom, 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 boom. They're taking them down and then they have to come along and replace them. But they only have a fixed budget. And once that budget's run out, they can't replace them. They can't replace them indefinitely. And so the Blade Runners are always destined to win because it's much cheaper to take a camera down than it is to replace it. And that's what's got to happen, I think. I think the people of Glasgow have got to sit there and act, in, how can we say, in an organised way to voice their political opposition to this scam, because it isn't just a money-making scam. Of course, it's also aimed at in the higher cause, which will be the control of people by constantly monitoring their movements. And that you don't want to be monitored. You don't want to be constantly scrutinised in your day-to-day activities. So whilst I won't call for any kind of illegal activity, I don't think it's right to do anything illegal. I would be very, very happy to report that the Glasgow chapter of the Blade Runners was being active and was taking these cameras down. I'd certainly support them. I won't obviously tell anyone to do it. That would be quite wrong and could lead me into a great deal of trouble. But I will happily report in a favourable manner were they to do any such thing. I think I'm clear. Anyway, the war on motorists is relentless. And apart from the fact that pollution levels are well within the acceptable levels, we feel that Glasgow City Council and the SNP Green Alliance seem determined to turn the city into a ghost town, they said. It is worth remembering that the council have never measured pollution levels before bringing in the low emission zone, and that the figures they based their case on were from traffic modelling done in 2017. Their sleight of hand is intolerable and filled with lies, and of course it's all to do with money. Anyway, I'm going to come up, finish, and round off. Now, this is a very weird decision by Lady Paul, and it does sort of make you question whether she has been got at by the establishment to ensure that this was the decision she arrived at, because Glasgow needs the money. The SNP government needs Glasgow to have the money. It's all there, and especially as her boss sits in the cabinet of the SNP government. Seems very weird setup. Where's the independence, of course, of the judiciary? Well, there isn't one. This is Scotland, of course. The judiciary is owned lock, stock and barrel by the SNP. What needs to happen is that the SNP need to be declared a Terry organisation, a tourist organisation, and basically banned because of what it is. It is basically organised crime, isn't it? Anyway, we shall stop there, round off. I've got a lot more to do, and it's a bit of a late start today. But we will crack on through and get these stories out because it's important that everyone knows the truth. Till next time, stay safe, stay well, and I will speak to you later. Bye.